Pop concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
All right. 1:30 on a Wednesday afternoon in the capital city. Glad to have you here. I think everything is working. I get the internet connection here is this close to making me think perhaps the Amish were onto something. At the very least, become like some sort of Irish traveler so I can motor oil someone's driveway for $10,000. Fun show today. Fox has gone dickless. My apologies to the New York chapter of the EPA. No Venkman involved in this. This is arguably bad news for Democrats. Worse news for the shrimping industry. And no, I don't mean the one that Ron Paul supports. What do Steve King and Ensign Robin Leffler of the USS Enterprise have in common? They have a common foe, and is not a mind-shaping alien video game this time. But first, we're going postal. News breaking today that come August, the U.S. Post Office will end Saturday delivery except for packages. And I was trying to think, I'm trying to think the last time I waited for something to come in an envelope. And I think it was like my 1991 Top Stadium Club stuff. Honestly, everything, that people wait for and sit by the door for and plan comes via package. And even then, more often than not, it's delivered to the office these days. So service-wise, I don't think the post office move is going to change much. Budget-wise, by the way, I know it's not going to change much. You're talking about perhaps a $2 billion savings. Again, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Soon you're actually talking about real money. But we're talking about a U.S. post office and a postal service that runs, thanks to congressional Republicans on their way out in 2006, about a $20 billion deficit for all the talk about email and no one mails anything anymore. If you remove the rules that Congress implemented in 2006, the post office would actually be turning a profit. And what those rules were was very simple. It gave the post office a 10-year window to fund 75 years of retirement benefits. So literally in 2006, Congress demanded that within a decade, the post office fund retirement for future postal workers who were not born yet, who would not be born for years, in an effort to break one of the strongest unions. And the move announced today will end up costing 20,000 or so jobs. And really not provide a drop in the bucket as far as savings goes. The problem is structural. And frankly, with Congress these days, I don't think you're going to see any way in hell that Republicans would look to ease that burden. No other federal agency, no other, I don't know if there's a company on earth that pre-funds 75 years of retirement benefits. That's the hole the post office was thrown into and was told, given a KFC spork and told to dig their way out of. And this is, not a catastrophe. This isn't a tragedy. It's not a sign of mismanagement. This was the plan. This was what was expected to happen. The post office could not fund what was being asked of it. That was the goal. And I don't know how widespread this view is, but there is perhaps, well, I know there's talk that perhaps upper management, postmaster general type level, are okay with this. They too would like to break the union. And it was easy enough to, bring the free marketeers in. We'll just privatize everything and it'll run great because we love the Constitution. Remember, the post office is explicitly written into the Constitution. But don't let, again, when it comes to, actual actions versus words spoken, conservatives not that big a fan of the Constitution. They really, considering they really don't like the First Amendment, 4th, 5th, 16th, 14th. Not all of them are on board with the 13th. Trying to repeal the 17th. And if we ever find a way to reanimate corpses, the 22nd probably needs to go as well. It is Ronald Reagan's birthday, though. So happy birthday to the man who, how did I put it earlier? Would be run out of the modern GOP, Indiana Jones style. If he were a practicing politician today. Sitting down with our enemies without preconditions? Amnesty? Arms dealing with Iran. Does he want the terrorists to win? Raising taxes. Working with Democrats? They ran out of the party on a rail. They wouldn't even give him the rail. They'd make him use some sort of ox cart. Thought this was like pro wrestling. Ed Fallon was going to come in wearing tights. That's The Undertaker's music.
That's hilarious.
I was like, I thought we were going to have like a Hulk Hogan moment or something. He was going to like, Brutus the Barber Beefcake was sneaking up behind me and Ed Fallon was going to hit him with a metal chair. But anyway, back to the post office. One thing the free marketeers need to understand is that the various private, you got your UPS, you got your FedEx, DHL still work domestically, have absolutely no interest, all right, in most of the post office's business. Like, they'd be more than happy to take your letter, for $1.50 to a place where they're already doing substantial amounts of business or have a hub. Hey, man, FedEx, you want to deliver something to Memphis? They're on board with that. Just drop it off on their way home from work. Huxley, Iowa, not so much. The state of North Dakota, not so much. In fact, for a lot of rural areas, smaller areas, and FedEx and UPS will get to a point, and then hand off their packages to the post office for that final leg of delivery. In fact, if the post office wants to make, a serious dent in that, barring, common sense inflicting Congress, which I'm not expecting anytime soon, one thing the post office should do, because they have these companies over a barrel, is raise the rates. Hell, considering the post office is in charge of zip codes, we could probably charge them for using zip codes.
Listen, let's not raise my UPS bill anymore. I already hate it when they pass it off to the USPS.
But they do that to save money.
I
They don't want to ship.
I understand that.
It used to be
But let's
only
not
if you were sending
suggest
something
that
to
I have to pay.
Spencer.
I don't want to pay more. Why are you trying to tax me?
Well, I'm not saying you should pay what it actually costs, because what you're doing is taxing the U.S. Postal Service.
Well, I would.
You're getting something below the price is below the cost. So you can say I want a special deal, but the closer we can get the price to the cost,
Listen, F you, I got mine. Okay.
the easier it is to make rational decisions. Same
No,
with
I
gas.
agree.
The price of gas
If
should-
they're losing money by doing this as a post office, then they ought to not
Well,
do
it's
that.
it's a potential revenue stream, and certainly if roles were reversed, you don't think FedEx and UPS would do everything they can.
I just think this is a great example why government shouldn't run something that could be run by private business.
But that's the whole point: is they can't. UPS and FedEx have no interest. Their business model doesn't cover. They don't want to deliver to far-flung places, and that's part of the Postal Service's charter, as written in the Constitution.
I understand that, but I'm saying that
The point is they
care.
can't do it better.
well, they could. I mean, in private,
They could do it
industry-
very expensively. They would love.
before-
I'm sure they
bef-
charge you $12 to deliver a letter to
Before the
Spencer,
government
Iowa.
took over the post office, it was a profitable private organization that wasn't always owned by the U.S.
By the way,
government.
the post office, without the regulations by Congress, is profitable, even in the era of email, even with competition.
Well, I
from
still get
UPS,
I get more junk mail. I mean, they got to be
FedEx.
making
Well,
money
that's
there.
that's a particular that's a boom for.
I mean, I don't ever open my mailman actually knocks on my door and tells me when my mailbox will not accept any more mail.
Yeah, I mean, you have no idea how many fundraising letters I get. Congressional candidates I've never even heard of, and I follow this stuff. Are sending me fundraising pictures. I get a lot of mail, but point being, without this, draconian, over the top, intentionally destructive rule by Congress, they have to fund 75 years of retirement benefits within a 10-year window. Which I don't. Maybe someone has an example. I don't know. I mean, I know government doesn't require this of anyone else. I doubt any private company would be dumb enough. Without that, anchor around their neck, without that albatross, the post office would be profitable. And the truth of the matter, again, FedEx doesn't want the post office to deliver. The same way that, Walmart is more than happy to shove off their healthcare costs on the rest of us by paying people so little they'll end up on Medicaid or Hawkeye so that we can pick up the tab for their health care. FedEx and UPS want to pass along their costs and take advantage of cheap postage. So they use the system, and they don't want it to go away. The goal is to break the Postal Workers Union. And again, I don't think anyone, other than the true Randroid, libertarian fantasy morons, truly want the Postal Service to disappear. Again, it's a public subsidy for many of these businesses. But they do want to break the union. No one wants to close this. Just look at what happens, and I'm sure part of Branstad's complaint was that he owns the buildings that the post office rents in some of these small areas. But even the idea of closing some rural, lowly trafficked post offices brings cries. You think FedEx is going to set up a Kinko's there? Or a UPS store? No. They have no interest in it at all. Yet not everything needs to make a profit. But even with that in mind, the post office would. So, of the bad solutions this one will have the least impact on most of us. Your Amazon package will still get there. You won't have to wait an extra day for your, 3-wolf moon shirt or uranium sample. Yes, things you can buy on Amazon to show up. But your junk mail won't show up another day. So I don't think most people will feel much of an effect. It just means your, advertising circulars will show up on Monday. It's just an ineffective move. And the thing that leads me to give credence to the talk that the higher-ups of the post office are absolutely okay with breaking the union is the fact that there's not been a huge outrage. If I were running the post office, I would make it my mission to send out people, far and wide to explain exactly the economic handicaps I've been handed. Talk about how, without these rules, the post office would be making money in spite of all the technological challenges and competitors. It's not like morons run the post office. They've been fighting this stuff since the fax machine started showing up. They've dealt with it, but as, again, a parting gift, the home version of the Running Man, if you will. The congressional Republicans left on their way out the door of the majority in 2006. This is an anchor around their neck that they now have to deal with. And I don't think there's any way to do it. So this will be the first step, and the next one will be union breaking. It'll be interesting to see what the president does at that point. Again, never underestimate Democrats' ability to acquire an acute case of deafness when labor comes knocking these days. So far, the cost for that hasn't been great, other than maybe some of the more extreme examples. You can live with tempered, unless you're Governor Culver, you can live with tempered enthusiasm. This one might draw out an actual fight. All right, we will make this quick. Frank, what do you want? Whoops, this button. Frank, what do you want?
Speaking of the post office, are you doing your taxes?
I haven't yet.
Well, good luck finding some forms.
I have an internet connection and a printer. I'm good.
Well, what's killing the post
Or
office then,
TurboTax.
Mr. Electronic Email?
I just explained it to you. They have to fund 75 years of retirement benefits in a 10-year window. They were designed to fail.
Okay, but what's that got to do with the fact that the federal government will not mail you a tax return, and you have to call? I called the other day to get a state tax long form sent.
Go to a library.
I got some from the library, but they don't provide the state.
Go online and print.
Okay, but listen, here's the point I'm trying to make. I called down to the Hoover building for a long form tax return to be sent to my home. I had to go through the menu 4 times and hear a recording to tell me that those forms could be downloaded online, or you could, get them sent, through the email or whatever. And what I'm trying to explain to you is nobody's forcing the government to do that. Now, all these tax forms that
yes, we are. Absolutely. The cries of austerity and cost cutting are coming from all sides.
But
even stupid Democrats have gotten involved. You realize that, by the way, the budget deficit is set to fall under $1 trillion? I know you're probably not going to hear that on Fox News, but
I don't know. I heard that our GDP, our spending, or our revenue is 16%, and we're putting out 25% of GDP, and it's normally about
the deficit is going down.
So we've got a large gap, a large deficit.
But you don't hear that, again, on the right, because it doesn't fit with the message that they're trying to send. Even as the Congressional Budget Office puts out more information on how austerity has hurt our economy.
But all these
We'd have 6% unemployment if Barack Obama just grew government at the same rate Ronald Reagan did.
But all these first-class tax return envelopes that used to be handled by the post office aren't being handled by the post office anymore because they're trying to force you to file your tax returns online.
Online, yeah, it saves the IRS money.
And even some 1099s, they're not going to send you 1099s anymore. You have to go online and use a special code or a number to get your information for your own 1099, or maybe in the future.
Well, do you want government to spend less money or not? I'm
fine.
fine with them spending more money. It's good for the economy.
I think you're blaming the wrong people. I mean, in other words,
with regards to what?
The government is sabotaging itself. It would look like to me if they wanted to...
in a way, Frank, you don't even know this, but you're right. In cutting back, we are harming our own economy.
Well, it looks.
And by the way, if you want examples that even conservatives and free marketeers believe this, again, try to cut military spending. Watch the deficit peacocks like Chuck Grassley.
Okay.
All right, bay at the moon when you want to shut down an Air National Guard wing in Des Moines.
We got the environmental people yakking about cutting down trees and the amount of paper we use.
But they have no influence on the discussion.
Okay, but the amount of paper.
No one cares, Frank.
It would look like to me that the government would say the more paper the merrier. That keeps the post office in business.
You'd think, yeah. I mean, in all honesty, it would be a boom for the economy.
Okay, so, it looks like to me that you're pointing your finger, but you're pointing your finger at the wrong culprit. It's the electronic age. It's the electronic...
No, but that's not hurting the post office. Well, not to a degree that would make it unprofitable.
What's killing newspapers?
Blogs?
The
clock.
Websites? Electronic media?
The clock. Anything a newspaper prints, I can get online immediately. I don't have to wait till the next morning.
So you're blaming the fact that the post office has to fund its health care for the next 75 years.
Yep.
That's the whole thing.
Correct. Without that, they are profitable.
Well, how about the government finance their spending for the next 75 years?
Because that's stupid.
Why?
Where's the money going to come from?
That's what I'm saying. Where's the money coming from the post office?
They're making money. They don't get federal money. They have to take care of themselves. But Congress is allowed to throw monkey wrenches in the works. They would be profitable. Get this through your head. Without these over-the-top, burdensome, meant-to-fail requirements, they would be profitable, even in the era of email, fax machines, electronic forms, electronic bill pay, all of that.
Sabotaging themselves.
Well, they aren't sabotaging themselves. Congress sabotaged them in an effort to break the union.
Well, that's like what's come first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know.
Well, the egg came first.
But anyway, I would like to talk about drones if you have some time.
Sure.
All right. I want to get clear right off the bat. I support the drone strike program. So...
You want a medal or something?
No, but, I'm not going to come on bashing, killing terrorists with drones.
Well, what about American citizens without trial?
Well...
Cool with that?
If they can make a pretty good case for it, yeah.
Make a case to who?
Well, that's the argument going on. Is Eric Holder or the Justice Department, are they the ones to be making these decisions?
No, some of these decisions don't even have to go to the president, based on the white paper that NBC News.
Okay, so here's my question: Where is the nightly rant by some media outlet? Not just giving lip service to this.
Me, Glenn Greenwald, David Sirota. I don't know. You should read the Daily Kos more often.
I'm talking about the media that most people see. The evening news, Brian Williams, Katie Couric,
the reason that there's not a rant...
Arthur Raditz, these type of people.
The reason there's not a rant is, again, for two reasons. One, as much as I don't like it, I understand it is the status quo. This is an argument, you should have watched the show yesterday, that we had years ago, and conservatives won. They got what they wanted, which is if the president wants it, it's not illegal. If you want to wiretap, remember? Republicans were all about that.
But Barack's in charge now. There's
Mm-hmm.
a new sheriff in town. But he looks like he's as corrupt as you said George Bush was.
Well, please. George Bush wins some sort of.
Okay.
Might be the only thing he's ever legitimately won was a lifetime achievement award
Morgan,
in being an incompetent.
Pierce Morgan
boob.
and Anderson Cooper haven't not stopped talking about gun violence since the Connecticut shooting. Ed Schultz and the other.
Ed Schultz was talking about the drone program yesterday. I heard him myself.
Ed Schultz and
he was upset about it.
Okay, but that's lip service. Chris,
What do you expect?
Okay, here's what I expect. Chris Matthews, when the oil well head blew up undersea and was spilling oil into the ocean and coming towards Florida and the Gulf, Chris Matthews literally talked about that every night and had a day 1, day 20, day 30, day 40 chart to talk about it every night on his show.
Yeah.
Ed Schultz, when the thing was going on in Wisconsin, Rachel Maddow and Ed Schultz literally talked about that every night on their show, the Wisconsin battle, the re-election.
Yeah.
Anderson Cooper and Pierce Morgan has literally talked every night about gun violence since Connecticut.
I will explain. How much did Ed Schultz and Rachel Maddow and all of them talk about the Wisconsin battle after the recall election was won by Scott Walker? Not much.
Not much because they were biting their heads.
Because the fight was over. And when it comes to the unitary executive, the fight's over.
But here's the problem. Ed Fallon,
we lost.
Ed Fallon had a young lady on his program last week, Heather Ryan, and she was yammering on about getting snubbed by Mitch McConnell. Her daughters went up and said something about, how do you feel about killing
Here,
people?
Ed, have a seat. You can talk about this with Frank. Here, go right to the source and ask the horse. Sit wherever you want.
Who am I speaking to?
Ed
Fallon.
So instead of speaking for him,
and I'm going to say a word, Frank, you're not going to want to hear.
You'll have to
vagina.
You'll have to turn your mic down. There's a lot of
feedback
feedback
on in the old vagina, the old vagina, the old vagina. I know what goes on in the old vagina.
No,
that's why I host the show.
With Ed. My argument was with Heather Ryan.
Oh.
Well, Frank, you're going to have a great opportunity Friday because she'll be back on the show with me.
Well, the bottom line is go up and yell in Obama's face that he's sending along with these drone strikes that he's dropping, he's killing innocent civilians.
Yeah.
He's killing people. There's collateral damage in these drone strikes.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about that.
Except everyone in the media the last couple of days. Where did the drone memo come from? NBC.
Where is the Heather Ryans going up and screaming in Obama's face, you're sending my son or daughter off to die, and you're killing innocent civilians and collateral damage with your drone strike?
That's pretty much been a nonstop since he's...
I have...
Frank, you're living in an alternate reality.
What's that behind you, Bradshaw?
That's the
you are
Obama
living
star.
in the alternate reality.
Okay, so your argument is no you.
I happen to be a C-SPAN junkie, probably more so than you would
should
ever
probably
believe.
pay more attention to it. Actually,
where is these code pink individuals that used to routinely interrupt anytime Donald Rumsfeld, anytime the FBI director, anytime the CIA director was up before Congress, you would be guaranteed that you would, Condoleezza Rice, whoever, go down the list.
I think the Code Pink people finally realized that they weren't just getting anger from the right, they were getting mocked by the left.
Okay, so let me get this straight. George Bush was a criminal because he waterboarded 3 individuals, and Obama's not a criminal, and he's dropping drone strikes on people, killing people. And who's making these decisions? Eric Holder, or maybe even not even the president.
Some of my friends call President Obama a war criminal. Do you think that's going too far?
I told you right off the bat I happen to support the program.
Do you think that Barack Obama is a war criminal, though?
No, I don't.
All right, so why? What are you outraged about? Are you that liberals aren't loud enough? What decibel? We're not silent, Frank. You're lying. Now, what decibel level would you consider acceptable?
Your outrage on your side is deafeningly silent.
Well, you're wrong, and I already named off commentators who have not stopped talking about it for days.
When I first
you called Ed Schultz silent on it, and you're wrong about that because I just listened to him yesterday go on and on about how he was upset about the drone program.
Okay.
Frank, you're wrong.
Let me explain this to you as simply as I can.
No, because you're wrong.
In the 70s, in 1978 or 79, when the Iranian hostages were taken, I used to watch every night at 10:30. I used to watch the Rockford Files. Every night, religiously watch the Rockford Files. All of a sudden, the Rockford Files got bumped up an hour because of a new thing called Nightline.
Yes.
Okay? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 100, day 400, day 400 and whatever of the hostage crisis. Mm-hmm. Where is the day 1 of Obama's drone strikes? We're outraged. Day 2 of
because
Obama's drone
we,
strikes,
the
we're
American,
outraged.
Because we had this argument. We lost.
You're giving lip service to it. I'm not denying there's not some lip service out there, but where is the outrage?
I'm outraged. And what did I say about it yesterday? Short of a seismic change.
Didn't hear you yesterday.
Well, you should have paid attention. That would do you a lot of good, Frank. Short of a seismic change, in the same way that 9/11 was a seismic change that ushered in this new era of what can we do to make ourselves safer, even if it doesn't actually include safety. If it just makes us feel safer, we're all for it. For more information on this, look at the TSA. That sort of seismic change will have to happen again for this societal change, to end this permanent war footing. The same thing I said yesterday. I absolutely understand and agree with liberal outrage over this. There should be a method, much like the original FISA law, to, hey, if bad guy is out there, you go get him. And then you have, in the case of FISA, it was 72 hours to go and get a retroactive warrant, but you had to make the case in front of a judge. Now, in the case of a wiretap, if your motion is denied, you just have to remove the wiretap, and nothing you caught, was admissible evidence. My suggestion was simply you are basing, not just career, but your freedom. Like, you can make the call. If there's an Anwar al-Awlaki out there, you can make the call to press the button, but you are risking your freedom.
This is where you and I disagree.
In doing that.
This is where you and I
Otherwise, you make your case, all right, in a court of law. No, that doesn't mean going out on the battlefield like the morons like Ann Coulter talk about and reading every bad guy his Miranda rights. But if you want to execute a kill order on an American citizen, even if they're outside of our borders, there should be a form of review. There should be, much like the FISA courts, a court set up to deal with this. Or you can try someone in absentia. There's any number of ways around it. Unfortunately, again, this was an argument that liberals lost years ago.
Since when did the liberals lose an argument, cause them to shut up? Again, you're talking about it, but it's lip service.
I fought the good fight, in 05 and 06.
I want to see the
I was told that I was on the side of the terrorists because I didn't want a waterboard. And again, before, Katrina, before all the Republicans, Bush is unpopular, therefore we don't like him.
But
now.
You see...
Go back to when, dear Juche, great conservative victory leader Bush, back in 04 and 05, before Republicans disowned him, when dear leader could do no wrong.
This is where we part company. Up until George Bush made his decisions, we treated terrorist activity like a criminal action, like somebody robbed a Quick Trip.
Which we should.
Had to wait till the Quick Trip was robbed, then we send in an investigating team to dust for fingerprints and to find evidence to go out and find the person. George Bush said, F that.
Yeah.
We're going to start hitting these people where it hurts. We're going to knock down their communication ability. We're going to
We
knock
did
down
that
their training
before
camp.
George Bush.
We're
We
gonna
did that
disrupt
before
their
George.
money
Hold on, we
supply.
did that before George Bush, and you guys accused us of wagging the dog.
We're going to go after their money supply. And then
We
the
did
New
that
York
before
Times-
George Bush.
Then the New York Times and other medias like that busted their butt to tell everything that we was doing to the enemy, that we're triangulating their cell phone communications. We were doing things, so they had to find more ingenious ways to communicate with one another and get their money to one another and do these things because the media was constantly trying to trip George Bush up on his efforts instead of getting behind and supporting him, tripping him
So
up.
the problem with the war on terror is that we didn't clap loud enough. That's your argument.
Well, my argument is we never would have won World War II and defeated Hitler if we would have been pulling the crap we're pulling in this country. I mean, I can remember my grandmother going out to the John Deere plant in Ankeny and making 50 caliber machine gun rounds for our servicemen to kill Nazis and kill
And people were very happy, by the way. I mean, yeah, there was grumbling.
women.
and-
Were giving up
Hold
their
on, but-
nylon.
and there was gaming the system, but people were happy to accept their ration book. People would accept their tire and gas rations.
But
they
you're not-
went. Hold on. They went through and they grew victory gardens. They did scrap metal drives.
That's
they
right.
did give up their nylons.
They celebrated their troops coming home. They
But
didn't
hold
sit
on,
on
Frank,
them
you're
all-
missing the bigger point. Do you think people would be willing to make those same sacrifices? And why?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you why.
Perhaps the battle is not as worthy to fight. What sacrifice were we asked to make for the Iraq War? None.
Well,
and-
that's where I do agree.
And perhaps that's because the powers that be are smart enough to understand
that's where
that the American people would not be willing to make a sacrifice
Look.
for the Iraq War. And maybe that should lead us to question
This is,
whether this is a fight worth having, a
As I
war
told you,
worth fighting.
as I told you before on your program, I do agree with you in some small way on that point. In that when we were hit, George Bush would have been better served. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to say, hey, go shopping, go do your thing like normal. Don't let the terrorists win by stopping you from living.
No, he wanted us to spend money. He was
what
more than
he
happy to
should
let
have
the
said-
terrorists win
what
on the
he
civil rights
should have
front.
said is, look, we're going to be in a long, protracted slug, and we need to buckle down, tighten our belts, because this is going. We're going to have to ride the storm out.
Yeah, and Americans wouldn't accept that. They would have freaked out, and Bush would have lost in Mondale-like fashion
So
in
that's
2004.
where I do agree with you to a point.
Again, if a fight is worth fighting, Americans, I think, are willing to step up and make the sacrifice.
But ever since the hippy dippy yippee Woodstock movement in the 1960s, going into the 1970s, and all the anti-war Vietnam music, and all the rebelling against the war, we haven't had a war since.
Worth fighting.
We haven't
I mean,
had a
would be
war
the argument.
since that the country's been behind.
Oh, people were absolutely behind the first Gulf War.
No, they weren't.
yes, they
Al
were. You're
Gore
lo-
didn't vote for the resolution.
But you're talking about American person. Now, are you want to talk about the American people, or do you want to talk about a specific human being?
Well, Al Gore didn't just represent
I mean,
himself.
dude, they made baseball cards over Operation Desert Storm. We watched it live on CNN.
What? Because we got the Arab Union or the Arab League to go along with us so we could fly over their
No,
territory?
that's the invasion of Libya. That's a different war.
No,
I'm talking about
the first Gulf War.
Gulf War. The American people absolutely celebrated. Yellow ribbons were everywhere. Like I said, they made trading cards about it, including, I believe, the stealth bomber was a limited edition collector's.
I support my troops button.
People were all over that. In fact,
And a sweatshirt.
Even go back to Reagan kicking Grenada's ass. People were all about that, I think, because we needed the mood refresher.
We had to threaten
bombing Panama.
We had to threaten Israel to keep them to stay out of it. We armed them with Patriot missiles to shoot down the Scuds that Saddam was launching at it.
Yeah, we didn't want to inflame the entire region.
Didn't want Israel to get in it. And we had to get all the permission from Turkey and from Egypt and from
Wait a
all
minute.
these-
America does diplomacy? I'm shocked.
But sometimes you got to go it alone, and you got to go with the people that's willing to go, called a willing coalition.
Yeah, and that's how the Iraq War, and which was more effective, the first Iraq War or the second?
Well, who do you think got that drone that fell over in Iran? Who's got that? Who's got possession?
Okay,
of that
you didn't
drone?
want to answer that question, so I'll answer it for you. The first Iraq War. Diplomacy works better than being Mr. Small Penis Tough Guy.
I don't know. We didn't take out our target.
Intentionally.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because at the time...
But the first one
argument,
was so unsuccessful, we had to have a second.
I would argue the first one was very successful in the sense that it kept Saddam Hussein... A, out of Kuwait, B...
Until Russia and all these
kept him out of
and all these
Kuwait,
other countries was funneling
neutered his
stuff in.
military, he wasn't gassing the Kurds anymore after we stopped selling him the gas. He was basically...
What about the helicopter shooting he done up in the north, the Kurds killed all them?
He was effectively, at least was as far as American interests go, a nothing. That is why the people for the New American Century spent the better part of the late 90s trying to convince Bill Clinton to go in and kick his ass to show the area that America was tough. We thought peace through strength was an actual, viable goal. And Bill Clinton pretty much laughed in the people for the New American Century's face. The sad thing is most of those folks, the people for the New American Century, ended up as, well, the Bush Defense Department.
Was not the French
and we saw how that ended up.
Was not the French and Germans back in there helping him rebuild bunkers and helping him rebuild stuff after that war?
No, he was under crippling U.S. sanctions.
If they would have cut the spigot off instead of Iran smuggling stuff in there and Germany and France and different people.
Okay, but hold on. Was Saddam Hussein a threat to the United States?
I don't say he
No. By the way, I'll answer that question for you. We went in and kicked his ass anyway. And what did we get for it? P.S. Liberals are outraged about President Obama. I just don't understand why conservatives are. They got what they asked for. Take a break. When we come back, what do Ashley Judd and Steve King have in common? I will explain right after this on The Bradshaw Show, thebradshawshow.com, on Webcast One Live. Thanks for watching. See you in a second.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittysusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
Yo,
Concert movement
the one who
number
is
1.
moving now.
The basic head bob.
Answer me.
Ready, go.
Bradshaw with you, 2:16 on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm off Thursday and Friday, so find other means to entertain yourself. I guess I need to get to this before too late. We'll explain Ashley. This internet thing, seriously, it's going to make me start punching kittens.
Is it doing it again?
Yeah, it works for. It's the exact same thing. It works for a minute and then craps out.
That must be the Mixler. It's actually your fault. Because you're the one that wanted the audio
If that
file.
thing takes enough bandwidth to bring the internet to a halt, there are bigger problems.
Well, that's apparently what it's doing.
Anyway, Fox News is ridiculous. What I mean is they announced they are not renewing the contract of maybe the worst political pundit in America, Dick Morris. Dick Morris is the former Clinton pollster who fell out of favor due to an issue with prostitutes and his toes, and I'm not going to get into that anymore. You can Google that. I wouldn't do it at work if you want to learn more. What's a disgraced Democrat to do when you're basically a pariah? And there were other issues, a lot of which were, inflating his own role in the Clinton administration and the campaigns, kind of overstating his importance in a, I guess, carefully crafted move. Realized that there was an almost unlimited again market for Democrats willing to criticize Democrats on the right. And you have kind of this cadre of Fox News Democrats, right, whose job goes from Democratic consulting or whatever to basically being a concern troll. Oh, Sean, if the Democrats would just listen to you, they'd be more successful. If they would just, vote to actually deify Ronald Reagan, turn the Trinity into a foursome, they'd just be so much better off with the average Americans. That's just common sense, Sean. Those types of folks. And maybe none burned brighter and faded quicker than Dick Morris. And you got to give the man credit. He got paid. I mean, if you're the type of person, again, who just material success, you must be a good person. I believe in the just world fallacy. Dick Morris is your guy. Everything ranging from auctioning off without permission, auctioning off tours of the Fox News studio, groups like the National Republican Trust PAC. Just one example, back in 2008, they paid Dick Morris $24,000. In exchange, he mentioned their website 13 different times on Fox News appearances. For $10,000, he would plug your congressional campaign like he did for Beth Ann Rankin in Arkansas. For $25,000, you would get access to the email list that he was continually pimping out on his Fox News appearances. A list that, again, you would send the Dick Morris email. Which, oh God, I can't even imagine how bad that was. But then he would sell that list to companies like Newsmax, and then you would start getting, basically spam from all of their advertisers. So he was, pimping out his email list. He was whoring himself out for candidates. And by the way, apparently all of that was fine. He was paid like 15 grand or so from some Republican group to appear at their meeting or convention, and as a fundraiser for that group, auctioned off a tour of the Fox News studios. Got reprimanded for that because he didn't get any permission. Then tried to do it a second time, and that tour was canceled, but he still wasn't suspended. So that grifting was fine and acceptable because he still had a role to play as a Democrat who will say bad things about Democrats and tell Sean Hannity how right he is. And that does have a value to Fox News and friends. That, I guess, value went out the window. Career miscalculation. He was brought on pretty much through the entirety of the 2012 cycle to tell Republicans how well they were doing. I mean, literally saying Mitt Romney will win in a landslide. I don't know if you read the news much, but that didn't happen. And basically came, right-wing grifter, well, then again, aren't they all, to punchline. And now all of a sudden his attacks on Democrats, again, turned into shrimping jokes. Therefore, he was let go. Again, the whole point, if you want to be a grifter, right, you can be, say, the Ebola virus. Now, you will be very successful in your role as a, replicating virus. The problem is you kill your hosts so fast. You don't do a very good job of passing yourself on. You want to be a more successful parasite, you have to provide some value. Pardon me for not knowing the name in Latin, but there's literally some sort of sea parasite that replaces a fish's tongue. So instead of a tongue, it's got this thing, feeds off the blood supply or something like that. Provide some value to the system. Has a much longer life. Some of the Ebola viruses of the right, Sarah Palin, not having her contract renewed, now Dick Morris. Again, you got to provide something for your service. I mean, if you are valuable, you're obviously going to get away with a lot more. Same, Barry Bonds wants to use the cream and the clear. That's cool. If you're Nefi Perez, it's probably a career ender. There are different standards. When Dick Morris became a punchline and not an asset, well, it's time to go. So I think it's official to say that Dick Morris will be missed by no one. Although, and again, I don't know if I've ever said these words before, you should watch Piers Morgan tonight. I know, but apparently Dick Morris will be on with Piers. And the question is there bad blood, and will he start cracking on Fox News? Steve King is not the only person in Karl Rove's sights today. Again, as part of the ongoing game of, I don't know what you want to call it, Civil War or Hungry Hippos, as two sides look to shore up their donor base. Karl Rove's, Crossroads GPS, and came out over the weekend that he was gearing up and doing fundraising to try to keep Steve King from running for Senate. And there's certainly some logic behind that. Two polls this week. The latest, which has already been called out by the Iowa GOP, public policy polling. The folks who got everything right in 2008 and 2012, almost Nate Silver levels of accuracy. Came out with their first numbers for the Iowa Senate. As we look to see who will replace Tom Harkin as Iowa's junior senator, showed two things that should be very alarming if you are a Republican interested in taking back the Senate and gaining influence. And that is, A, Steve King had a huge commanding lead among Republicans in a proposed primary. Blew the doors off of Tom Latham, blew the doors off Bob Vanderplatz in a way that he would almost consider indecent. It wasn't even close. It also showed that Steve King was very unlikely to win said Senate seat. Again, this is the difference between a Republican primary audience and a general election. So there is some logic in what Karl Rove's doing. Let's keep the Todd Akins on the bench somewhere. Let's keep the Richard Murdochs on the bench somewhere. And Steve King, as a congressman from, northwestern Iowa, can't do as much damage as Senate candidate Steve King would. And King, to his credit, running in a newly formed district against a credible candidate, did manage to keep the kind of crazy concealed. And I would argue that the Vilsack campaign did not do themselves any favors by not going out of their way to over-the-top highlight all the crazy stuff Steve King did. I think that was a mistake. Well, the results kind of back me up on that. But I think that would have been a much different race if it had been more of a referendum on Steve King, considering he was introducing himself to a number of new people who weren't as likely as far western Iowa to be open to his interests. Well, now, Karl Rove and friends have picked out a second target, Ashley Judd. Yeah, the non-country music one, the one who appeared on Star Trek. Ensign Robert Leffler. I believe that was Will Wheaton's first kiss. There is talk that perhaps she would run against Mitch McConnell, of all people, in Kentucky. Again, it's kind of hard to get good Democrats in Kentucky, and Mitch McConnell was seen as relatively safe, even with horrible popularity numbers, not just nationally, but in Kentucky. Anyone else would probably be seen as vulnerable, and even Mitch McConnell knows this as he tries to, and this is sad, tie himself on to the Rand Paul train, hiring a lot of former Paul staffers and the like. And again, it's kind of hard to be an outsider when you're the Republican, minority leader in the Senate, but he's going to try his best by hook or by crook, and certainly if Harry Reid can win, anyone can. So now Karl Rove and friends are already running. She hasn't announced she's going to run. She just said she might think about it, but they're already running attack ads against her. So I got kind of a kick out of that. Ashley Judd and Steve King being held in probably the first time they're connected in any way if I were her, I would be going out of my way. I want to make that bacon number larger between me and Steve King. I want nothing to do with that waste of human flesh. All right, real quick before I scoot for the week, and I say I'll be back on Monday. News broke at the Harkin Institute. Will not be getting the Harkin papers, and we'll probably won't be having the name Harkin Institute. And it is a long, drawn-out affair. Long story short, not surprising, as soon as the folks at the Harkin Institute and Tom Harkin himself said that they wanted to do perhaps some academic research into agriculture. And my guess is that that research would not be as friendly to Big Ag as the rest of Iowa states. And in an era of, again, continued cuts to higher education, less state and federal funding to institutions, they fall more upon not just tuition. Tuition used to pay, a minuscule portion of the overall budget of a university, and the rest was made up by outside sources. And as those continue to dry, they lean more on students, which the cost of a college education is going crazy, but also going out of their way to make sure that Monsanto and other groups like that are well represented. Don't underestimate the power of having university behind your name. Why do you think the intelligent design crowd was so excited about Guillermo Gonzalez at Iowa State? They were able to use, so-and-so, Iowa State University, all right, supports a wizard did it science. And that's why the Iowa State faculty reacted so harshly and wanted him out, because they didn't want to be associated with that hokum. Again, you're not going to see a department of alchemy pop up anytime soon. So again, there's a lot of value for Big Ag in influencing these universities. What do you mean Pooh Lagoons are bad for you? That sort of stuff. Some of it's blatant, some of it's not. But when it came down to, again, the money that a Tom Harkin Institute could bring in versus, the ag school basically pulling a Roxanne and putting out the red light, wasn't even close. And Tom Harkin and his friends were never going to win that battle. Anyway, email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. For almost all of your Bradshaw news, just go to thebradshawshow.com. Contact info, show archives. You can keep yourself entertained tomorrow and Friday. And I'll be back on Monday. So thanks for watching. I will see you then. Bradshaw Show here on Webcast 1 Live. A little early to say on Hump Day, but have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.